What teams look like they have a promising future and which ones are looking like they are struggling to survive?
One of Ron Rivera's biggest problems since he's been in Washington is the quarterback. If you don't have that guy, you're in trouble.
Consistency is key. Here are 5 NFL teams that are poised to bounce back in 2023 after disappointing campaigns, and 5 who are bound to collapse. And a big shout out to Charlie, the Donald Duck, and Tho4423 for suggesting this video. Bounce back, New England Patriots. Allow us to be perfectly blunt. The Patriots are mostly on this list because Matt Patricia and Joe Judge aren't the offensive play callers anymore. That's not all though. Bill O'Brien, a longtime Bill Belichick assistant, is perfectly suited for the offensive coordinator position in Foxborough. O'Brien had a short but sweet run as the Alabama Crimson Tide's OC before coming back to the NFL. Mac Jones is poised to bounce back from a forgettable sophomore year with Patricia and Judge no longer capable of ruining his career. Ramondre Stevenson is coming off a 1,000-yard rushing season, and the Patriots always field a top 5 to 10 defense with Belichick calling the shots. Look, Belichick is still the greatest coach of all time. And you know what? The best still make mistakes, as he did with Patricia and Judge. But O'Brien will help Jones regain that inspiring rookie form we saw in 2021, and a couple of reinforcements at the offensive skill positions will put New England on the path for a return to the postseason in 2023. Collapse, Minnesota Vikings. If you go strictly by regular season record, the 2022 Vikings were probably the luckiest team in NFL history. They went 13-4 despite a minus 3-point differential. Many had the 5th worst scoring defense, and they surrendered the 2nd most yards last year. Clearly, something isn't adding up. As for our favorite, most unsustainable stat of all time, the Vikings won 11 one-score games in the regular season, which was an NFL record. History and luck suggest everything will balance out and they'll lose the majority of one-possession games in 2023. Look, the offense will still remain a juggernaut with Justin Jefferson doing his thing, but it's always difficult to trust Cousins, especially against elite opponents. And the Vikings will face more of them, with their schedule set to become more difficult after winning the NFC North. That atrocious defense will finally catch up to Minnesota in 2023. They won't be able to win all these high-scoring shootouts when the D is giving up 25-plus points per game. Logic tells us this roster, as constructed, is closer to an 8 or 9 win team, at best. Maybe that's enough to still win the NFC North, but either way, the Vikings are a sure bet to regress by at least 4 wins in 2023. Bounce back, Denver Broncos. Hate on Russell Wilson all you want, but there is just no way that this team finishes dead last in scoring again with 16.9 points per game. Not with a 9-time Pro Bowl quarterback and several other playmakers spread throughout the offense. And with all due respect to Nathaniel Hackett, he just wasn't cut out for an NFL head coaching job. This year, the Broncos replaced him with one of the NFL's all-time great offensive minds in Sean Payton, acquiring the future Hall of Famer in a trade with the New Orleans Saints. The Broncos still field one of the best defenses in the AFC. Wilson and Payton are gonna do great things together. Keep in mind, Payton won 9 games in 2021 with Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, Trevor Siemian, and Ian Book as their quarterbacks. Denver GM George Payton has also beefed up the league's worst offensive line with the addition of former 49ers star tackle Mike McGlinchey. Are the Broncos gonna jump into Super Bowl contention? Well, that might be a bit of a stretch, but they will most certainly be closer to the 8 to 10 win range, and no longer be in the running for a top 5 draft selection. Collapse, Washington Commanders. The Commanders barely missed out on the postseason last year, finishing 8-1, which is kinda impressive considering that their 3 NFC East foes each won a playoff game. But how much longer can the Commanders really get away with such inept quarterback play? The trade for Carson Wentz was as disastrous as expected. Taylor Heineke had his brief moments, again, but didn't bring any consistency to the table. The good news was that Washington's defense returned to its 2020 form after an off year in 2021, ranking 3rd in total D while allowing the 7th fewest points. There's no reason to believe that the defense will regress, but the Commanders certainly can't expect to qualify for a playoff spot without a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. And, well, it doesn't look like they're about to get one anytime soon. Washington's 3 divisional rivals are all in good position to make another postseason run, while the NFC should see several other teams bounce back after down seasons in 2022. Washington has won at least 7 games each year under Ron Rivera. This time, however, they feel more like a 5 to 6 win team. Bounce back, Carolina Panthers. In 2022, Carolina quarterbacks combined for 58.4 completion percentage, 16 passing touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and 190.9 passing yards per game. Yeah, it wasn't pretty. Those quarterbacks, by the way, were Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, PJ Walker, and Jacob Eason. And yet, the Panthers won 7 games and fell just 1 game short of winning the NFC South. The offensive line, led by 2022 first-rounder Ike Mekwonu, showed notable improvement. Derek Brown, J.C. Horn, and Brian Burns once again powered an underrated young defense that should be even better in 2023. New head coach Frank Reich is just the guy to help Carolina's passing game going forward. It's also a good time to point out that Carolina has the 6th easiest strength of schedule for 2023. And they should be able to feast on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady now out of the way. Not saying Carolina is a playoff team, but they should improve to 9 or 10 wins with that schedule. If they take the right quarterback with their newly acquired first overall pick, they could be a sleeper team that even pushes for 11 or more wins. Collapse. Tennessee Titans. The Titans had a 3rd straight AFC South Division crown locked up until they didn't. A statement Week 11 road win against the Green Bay Packers had Tennessee sitting at 7-3 with 7 games to go. But a 4-game losing streak suddenly put the Titans' season on ice. And then they lost Ryan Tannehill for the year with an ankle injury. Tennessee wound up losing the next 3 games, closing out the year on a 7-game losing streak that was highlighted by the winner-go-home game versus the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 18. And honestly, there just isn't much reason to think that the Titans are going to bounce back from their first losing season since 2015. They released Pro Bowl offensive lineman Taylor Lewan and their 2022 leading receiver Robert Woods. At this point, it's hard to make the case that Tennessee is a better team without either of them on the field. The Jaguars are the new class of the AFC South. Even the Houston Texans and Indianapolis Colts will be better once they take their new franchise quarterback in the draft. Not only are the Titans bound to collapse in 2023, but there's actually a decent chance that they finish last in their division. And then, who knows what sweeping changes will lie ahead. Bounce back, New Orleans Saints. In a way, it was kind of impressive that the Saints won 7 games last year with a daunting schedule and Andy Dalton as their main starter. And without top wideout Michael Thomas for most of the season. And without top cornerback Marshawn Lattimore for 10 games. Well, we got news for you. Tom Brady is now gone, the Buccaneers are no longer relevant, and the Saints upgraded at quarterback by signing ex-Las Vegas Raiders star Derek Carr to a 4-year deal worth $150 million. The Saints haven't had this type of stability at quarterback since Drew Brees began to drop off during his final years. And yet, they kept turning out wins and stayed in the playoff hunt. Now Dennis Allen has a steady hand at the game's most important position, and did we mention that Brady is now gone? New Orleans had the 9th best scoring D in 2022. It could be even better if Lattimore can actually stay healthy. On the other side of the ball, Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara round out a quality set of weapons for Carr, who should have his way with those other NFC South defenses. The Saints are going to be a world beater, but consider this. After the Atlanta Falcons, they have the easiest strength of schedule for 2023. That gives them a very realistic path to 10 or 11 wins, which would be a noticeable improvement from the 7 W's that they had last year. Watch out, the Saints might bounce back with Derek Carr leading the way in 2023. Collapse, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It is the end of an era in Tampa. If Tom Brady didn't return for a 23rd season in 2022, the Buccaneers would probably be picking in the top 5 for the upcoming draft. Instead, the GOAT did just enough to help Tampa win a sad NFC South division with an 8-9 record. Well, Brady is gone now, and roster reinforcements are coming from an aging cap-strapped team that simply lacks the star power, depth, and swagger of the 2020 team that cruised to a Super Bowl championship. The Buccaneers need to begin a full-scale rebuild, but it's complicated with some of those hefty contracts on their hands. They'll probably just need to bite the salary cap bullet this year, then tear it all down and start from scratch in 2024. Tampa went from 13 wins in 2021 to 8 in 2022. Honestly, it would be impressive if they even won 7 games. In its current state, this is a 5 to 6 win team at best. Bounce back, Los Angeles Rams. Injuries and a lackluster offense completely derailed the defending Super Bowl champions in 2022. They finished 5-12, setting the record for the most losses in a season by a defending Super Bowl champion. It's easy to suggest that the aging roster and lack of draft picks has completely derailed this team in the long term, but we don't quite see it that way. A healthy Matthew Stafford is still very capable of winning games, especially when he has a healthy Cooper Kupp to throw the ball to. Aaron Donald is still a one-man wrecking crew on defense, and LA's usually stout offensive line can improve after a disastrous outing in 2022. Les Snead and head coach Sean McVay are simply too good at their jobs to endure another terrible season. They'll find ways to plug up their holes and keep this roster competitive enough to hang in the playoff race. No, they won't steal the NFC West division back from the San Francisco 49ers, but the NFC wildcard spots are all up for grabs, and the Rams still have one of the few proven quarterbacks in the NFC. There is no way a team with this core and head coach can fall to 5 wins again. They're at least going to get 8, but 9 to 10 isn't out of the question either. Collapse. New York Giants. The G-Men were a fantastic story in 2022 as new head coach Brian Daboll took this team from 4-13 to 9-7-1 in his first year. He helped resurrect the career of Daniel Jones, and Saquon Barkley was able to stay healthy and turn out one of the best seasons of his career. Many believe that this was just the start of Jones's rise to NFL stardom with Daboll by his side, and the Giants were certainly paying him as though that was the case. But we're not buying it. While he was good enough to help this team get into the postseason in 2022, it's still hard to argue that Jones is a top 10 or even top 15 quarterback in the NFL right now. His rushing abilities are certainly impressive, as he had 708 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground last year. But his passing still leaves a lot to be desired, and once teams start forcing the Giants to air it out, will Danny Dimes' accuracy issues and questionable decision-making catch up to him? Jones also benefited from having a healthy Barkley in the backfield, but can he rely on that happening for a second consecutive season, especially after the former Penn State star had struggled with a number of ailments throughout the previous 2 years? There's a number of question marks surrounding this Giants team, and we haven't even mentioned the lack of wideouts yet. Look, add it all up, and it's kind of hard to see the G-Men repeating last year's performance. Where they earned a wildcard berth and made it all the way to the divisional round of the playoffs. 6 wins and no postseason seems a lot more likely. Trust me, after the 2023 campaign, the Giants are going to be regretting that 4-year, $160 million deal that they handed Daniel Jones this offseason. But which other NFL teams will bounce back in 2023? And which ones do you think will collapse? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea, because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.